Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 20th of March, comes to you from London. And we start, as always, by looking at the dollar. We see most currencies against the dollar. We see sterling down quite heavily here in the red. US markets fairly flat. We see Europe down this morning, Asia mixed, Japan up, and India up, but China and Hong Kong down slightly. And so basically starting by looking at the dollar, remembering this is my long term, my medium term, and my short term view. Dollar has been bearish over the last week or so, just starting to come to an end by the looks of things. So we might see a bit of recovery there. The euro looking stronger against that weaker dollar on the short-term chart, but we do still have these downside targets of 3 and 4.5% hanging over us, and we're bearish on the long-term chart. Against the yen, the dollar is actually up this morning, and this medium-term chart is really the sign that the dollar is actually strengthening medium and long term, even though we're seeing a short-term sell-off. Sterling is down by about 1/3% this morning, not enough to take the chart bearish, but still Brexit uncertainties remain. Against the euro, we're just seeing some weakness creeping in. We're just turning bearish there, and against the Swiss franc, also just turning bearish on that short-term chart, just moving below the cloud. Looking at Bitcoin, little change here. Still waiting for recovery. We jumped at the start of the week, but are we seeing the beginning of a new uptrend? Too early to say. That long-term picture is still pretty bearish. The S&P 500 index was little changed last night, therefore the picture is little changed. We do still have these upside targets on the short-term chart. The Nasdaq also just pushing higher. So we are seeing this recovery continuing. We've got an 8% upside target and an 11% upside target for the Nasdaq. The Dow Jones was up 0.5%, so we're seeing that holding its bullish position, and the Russell 2000 is just struggling to show through. So it's not across the board that we're seeing this recovery at the moment. Smaller cap stocks still lagging the market. Looking at the futures, the S&P future up 0.1% this morning, and the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.08. So not enough of a heads up there to tell us which way the market's going to open. FTSE's slightly down this morning, but the short-term picture is still pretty good, and the mid caps also pushing higher, so we're looking pretty strong there as well. The DAX is down quite substantially this morning, down 0.75%, but not enough to take the short-term chart bearish. And the CAC Quarante is also lower this morning, but not by as much. Japan was up 1/3%. That weaker yen probably helping a little bit there. Starting to see an improvement in the medium term, starting to come into bullish territory. The Hang Seng was down 0.5%, so it bucking the trend, but still looking pretty good on the trend recovery. And the Chinese market was flat, given the recent rises in China. Hanging on to those rises is quite bullish. The Sensex in India pushing forward and looking still great on all three time frames. The Aussie market down 1/3%, just struggling on that short-term chart, just turning slightly bearish. Brent Crude up 0.09%. We've got a new upside target of 71.10, not yet activated. A new high would activate that. 70.60 is the target that we're gunning for at the moment. So whilst we're down this morning, the chart's still bullish on all three time frames. WTI down slightly. So we are just seeing the flat performance there, but it's still looking pretty bullish across the board. US nat gas sitting steady at $2.85, and gold pulling back to this $1,300 mark again. Just can't really shake off coming back and testing that, but we are still bullish on all three time frames. So that is very much the picture at the moment. It's breaking to a new high is obviously what's needed for gold to be clearly bullish. Looking at silver, not looking as strong as gold, and we've got a couple of downside targets there. And US 10-year yields, we're waiting for the Fed this week, sitting at 2.59%. So we are just seeing that yield weakening. The market really not expecting any interest rate rises, but some guidance will be the key. This data all coming from Thomson Reuters Icon or Metastock Zenith if you're a private user. Brilliant for global coverage. Here I'm using Yahoo Finance for my stocks, and again we just see here the sea of red in the stock indices. Looking at the Dow 30, Just ranking by performance, Goldman Sachs was again a strong performer. They're looking pretty good there now on that medium-term chart. On the downside, we had Walt Disney down nearly 4%, so quite a sell-off there. But on the whole, the Dow was up. Looking at the Nasdaq, we had Alphabet up over 1%. Apple were also they were down actually by 0.8%. But still looking pretty good for a recovery. Facebook was up by 0.7%, so we're seeing across the board a fairly mixed picture. Looking to the Aussie market, we had Seven West Media, they were up 5.10%. Corporal Travel Management, they actually recovered quite strongly as well. Looking at the downside, we had a massive falls here from Eclipse Group, down some 56%. That just fell out of bed completely. And New Farm down 23%, 24%. So again, just falling massively. New Hope Corporation down 14%. Some really big falls here, and Platinum Asset Management down 11%. So a lot of big moves there. Fortescue Metals have been looking great lately. They just had a bit of a sell-off as well, down 6%. Looking at China, we see here the mixed picture, more stocks down than up, but on the whole it was pretty mixed. The Nifty 50 in India, best performer, India Bulls Housing, not yet full recovery, but nonetheless just trying to come off the bottom here. Infosys were the second best performer, up 2.4%, and they're looking great. Here we see the live prices coming in from Yahoo Finance. On the downside, we've got Hindustan Petroleum down nearly 5%. Z Entertainment also weak, having had a sharp recovery, not really managing to get back into bullish territory there. And we see on the relative they've underperformed as well. Taking a look at Europe, we're looking at the FTSE 100 to begin with. Micro Focus, the best performance this morning, up 1.6%, and that's starting to look like a really good long-term recovery, so quite good there. Vodafone up 1.3%, but their performance has been pretty dire of late. Looking on the downside, we've got Antofagasta down 4%, Rio Tinto down 3.5%. So resource stocks being heavily hit. Kingfisher down 3.5% with the announcement their chief executive is to leave, and Glencore down 2.7%. Anglo American down. So resource stocks being heavily hit, although their trends are looking still pretty good on the whole. Looking at the FTSE 250, Inmarsat, the best performer, up 16%, a massive jump there. That's really in recovery territory on the medium-term chart. TI Fluid Systems up 5%. Again, the chart not looking great. Moving to the downside, we've got Danger Holdings down 2.7%. Funding Circle down 2.6%. Acacia Mining. The mining stocks being hit heavily, down 2%, and Cas Minerals down 2% as well. So we are seeing quite a hit there across the board. Looking at the Euro Stocks 50, last of all, we've got Danone in Paris. They're up 2/3%, and looking pretty good all round. Amadeus IT, they're looking pretty good too in Spain, and Unibel, the Westfield Group, up just 1%, but maybe a medium-term recovery. Long-term, we've still got work to do. On the short-term chart, we've got Bayer. They've been hit pretty badly this morning on this Roundup case in the US, so that's hit them down 11%. And we're seeing, and that will be having an effect on the DAX as well. We've got mentioned down 1.3%. But that chart's still looking absolutely incredible. Total Group down 1%, but again, the chart looking pretty good. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.